has been lost, because that was our outreach to the wider Caribbean. And I'm going to come back to that just before I end. However, it wasn't all roses, because we were established as an entity outside of the existing faculties. So in many ways, if we want to use the language of the discourse, we became the outsider.
And I want to come back to that later to ask if you know, how you manage to negotiate around that, and why the struggle still continues. But I wanted to, so just hold that point. Okay. I wanted to also, Elsa, as we were talking about others who have contributed to the development of IGDS in its various manifestations, to also mention the work of Carlin Cooper and the work she did, because I know she was there around the time, we arrived around the same time, and joined this work. But I wanted to, before I come back to the panel with another round of questions, I wanted to open this up, because I know that students are there. I mean, this is a wonderful opportunity to talk to your sources. So I don't want to hog the mic. Yes, go ahead. Please direct your question to a specific person, or if you want all the panelists to answer, say so. Yes. I don't know if they have ever heard those comments, actually, but I'll leave it to them to respond. Who wants to jump in?
Yes? I will start by saying absolutely no problem. but seriously, having studied science, one of the things you realize is that nothing stays static. There has to be change. Evolution and change is part of life. And so I would be very upset. I'd be very concerned if the new generation of feminists was still stuck where we were when we started. And so I do welcome it. I may not understand a lot of it, but I do welcome it. And I welcome the growth and the development which it demonstrates, and know that, and it tells us that we have done something good. Because when we started, we really had to struggle to get the center established. I mean, when I tell you that it was my task, and it was a very difficult task, because you had to determine. Remember that the groups had set a pattern and were comfortable working in that pattern, but that had to be disrupted now, because it was to become an academic venture. So you had to now determine what was the new purpose. So there was change. There's the change, the evolution, a new purpose. You had to determine what support you had. What was the institution going to provide for you to support that change? How were you going to, what strategy were you going to use in order to effect this change, given the fact that it was not a change which was a popular change? Within the academy, people were asking, what is this foolishness? What is this business about women's studies? Why are we going to study women? What about men? Why are we studying women? I mean, those were the sorts of questions. So it was not popular. When the first proposal went in, it was referred back without even a reading. Why? Because it didn't meet the precise requirements of a committee submission. So it was returned. And again, I'll just show you how things happen. We had to use a gentleman who was in the administration, who helped us to frame the proposal in such a way that it would meet the demands of the mainstream so that our proposal could be accepted. And that put us back by 6 months because the meetings didn't come around for another 6 months. So we had to adopt the mainstream strategies in order to get our proposal through. So change and evolution is something which is natural and which happens. And so I say, happy to see it.
Let me see how Barbara responds to that, and I'm coming around.
No, well, I think I would have echoed what Elsa had said, except to add, your time will come.
well said, Barbara. And maybe, and maybe, and maybe we shouldn't see these as ruptures, but perhaps it's like a relay, you know? We continue the work that has been done, and we change has to take place, but it's the purpose remains the same. Joycelin, how do you respond to that?
I don't have any objection to the age. I couldn't look at my head. It's all green. You know? But what I would suggest is that you think about this a little bit. One is that you have to know and understand your history, your past history and your contemporary history, and know how that is affecting you as an individual and the work that you do. Just as an illustration, Elsa, Barbara, and I were undergraduates at the time of, at some point during the federal experiment. And during that period, the sense of regionalism, which was inculcated in young people, was absolutely tremendous. And it still exists. And I think that it is that sense of regionalism that has helped us to chart this journey in a regional way and to insist that it continues. So whatever change you want to do in terms of subject matter, I'm asking you, please don't forget the regionalism which you are supposed to be involved in. The second thing I would like you to do is not to lose sight of where we have come from in terms of all of these problems and so on, and where you want to get, and to understand that the problems that we face, you are going to have to face too, because a lot of those things still exist, eh?
Yeah.
Still exist and exist in areas in the hierarchy or points in the hierarchy which you would not expect, you wouldn't believe, you know. So that struggle still has to take place if you want to maintain the program in whatever form you want. And the next thing is not to forget your clientele, because your clientele are the women of this region. You are supposed to be researching and producing material which could increase the human rights and social justice